Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And the off season is getting underway today, and we have already made a move that I think we had telegraphed pretty well recently. Alkshy, NS1, CLRK, Stanley Rosella, and Undercover Boomer have all kind of acknowledged in the comments to recent episodes that this is something that we needed to try to make happen, and it's of course that we have moved on from Bo Bichette. The good news is we didn't really have to give up too much to get him off the books, and importantly, we were able to get the entire final year of his contract next season off the books. Looks like the Mets are still set at shortstop with Francisco Lindor, but kind of have holes at second and third that I think Bichette will help them address. They are a team that made it to the NLCS last year, so they're certainly a win-now team. We got in return the 29-year-old second baseman Austin Martin, who is set to make $3.2 million in arbitration next year. We are not going to make an offer to him. We've got lots of good infielders, most of whom are cheaper than Martin. I'll see if we can possibly get something for him in trade, but I'm not expecting that it'll be too much. But basically, the big part of this trade for us was just not needing to retain any of Bichette's salary. He did have some value to the Mets, as I said. Was surprised that when I dug in more and was willing to keep a chunk of Bichette's contract, there was a decent amount of interest in him, and then I just had to include a few players to ensure that the rich Mets were able to handle all of his salary next year. The two guys that were just kind of throw-ins were third baseman Kyle Karros and right-handed pitcher Graham Ashcraft, who were 4A guys in our system. The somewhat valuable piece that I had to give up was the 24-year-old catcher Leonardo Bernal. You may remember we picked him up in a trade last offseason, and felt like with the fact that we had moved on from our previous backup catcher and we really only had Austin Wells as our backup and Drew Romo as our starter, that we needed a third professional major league catcher in the organization, and the 24-year-old switch hitting catcher certainly was that. He's a above average defensive catcher with a bat that is competent-ish at the major league level. Hit .278 for us in AAA Albuquerque last year, and then he was a September call-up for us where he actually hit .368, admittedly only in 19 at-bats. But he's a useful player. The reason we were willing to include him is that he's out of option years, so unless he made our 26-man roster coming out of spring training next year, which I wouldn't expect him to, there was a chance that another team could just pick him up for nothing. And we do have another catcher that we also picked up last offseason who's a little closer to being major league ready as a potential backup. So although we would have preferred to keep Bernal in our system, the fact that he was able to get the Mets to take more of Bichette's contract while keeping him on board, and the fact that, as I said, he's out of options, made us willing to include him in the deal. So as expected, though, the good news is we got Bichette off the books without having to give up anyone that's really part of our long-term future, although, again, Bernal certainly could have been a backup catcher for us for the next few years, particularly if we move on from Wells in the not-too-distant future. But the fans not happy. It says overall fan interest decreases noticeably. Fortunately, it certainly could have been worse. A 2-point hit to fan interest to 51 from 53. So we're as low in fan interest as we've been over the last few seasons now. For a team that's made the playoffs 3 years in a row, a little disappointing to be mired down in the 51 level. But it is what it is at this point. We'll just have to deal with it. Have gotten some suggestions to cut our ticket prices dramatically next year to just try to fill the stadium. Obviously, want to find the point where we don't hurt our revenue too much, but we are going to cut them to $25, maybe getting some more fans involved next year, getting closer to capacity will hopefully ultimately improve some of the financial dynamics in the game. So we still don't have a ton of flexibility, but with Bichette off the books and the fact that we declined the $13 million option on Aaron Ashby for next year, we've actually got a little bit of money to play with this offseason, but only $10 million in scouting and $20 million in player development. So still would hope that we can get some more contracts off the books somehow over the coming weeks and months. There's nothing as big and impactful and as obvious in my mind to do as moving on from Bichette and Ashby. A few of you have made the suggestion to potentially move on from Pablo Lopez, who we've got for 2 more years at $20 million a pop, and try to retain Dustin May instead. I agree that in a perfect world, I would love to do that. Unfortunately, this world is not perfect. It's one that's managed by me, and there is absolutely no interest by anyone in Major League Baseball to take Lopez if we don't retain some of his salary. So we can't get anything for him to just get the contract off the books. So although I do think that Dustin May on the margins is probably a better pitcher at this point and a little bit younger, just doesn't seem like there's a path to get Lopez off the books without retaining a big chunk of his contract, which defeats the purpose to some extent. We are, when we think about Mr. May going to make a qualifying offer to him, got some different opinions on that. Avery Shayam, YME943, Undercover Boomer, I think seemed to be on board with the qualifying offer. NS1 CLRK, a little concerned that May might accept it. Although NS1 CLRK actually, I think, wants us to have May rather than Lopez, which I agree with in a vacuum. I just don't think we can get rid of Lopez and make this swap. But I think it's a coin flip, but I think if I had to bet, I think May is going to reject the qualifying offer, which will result in us getting a pick, which I like. I think Alkshi didn't really comment on the QO for Dustin May. I think his preference was just that we try to sign him for less than $20 million for an extension, which certainly would be possible, but also part of his plan for that was getting rid of Lopez, which I've mentioned just doesn't seem possible now. So I'm going to make the QO at this point to May, although I would love to swap him for Lopez from what I've seen as far as the trade market. I don't think that's going to be easy to do. So if he opts into the 1-year deal, we're just going to have to scramble as far as our finances and figure out a way to get Lopez or someone else who's more expensive off the books. My hope is actually that May rejects the offer and heads to free agency, but as I said, I think it's coin flip-ish. But that's my preference, that's my hope, and ultimately I think he may do that. Other than that, we have ended up making offers to every arbitration-eligible player on our team except for Austin Martin, who we just picked up, with the exceptions of the Ashby, May, Pasquantino, and Bo Bichette departures. I thought as we can try to run this back with as much of this group as possible, see how it goes. Don't think we're going to have the money to make any big long-term commitments, but hopefully with the little hit that we did take to fan interest from moving on from Bichette, signing some of these arbitration-eligible guys who are getting to be a bit more popular with our fans may help us make up the little bit that we lost there and hopefully end up even higher than we were at the start of the offseason. And before we get too deep into the offseason, I wanted to take a look at the top prospects in our organization. We're up to being ranked 7th out of 30 farm systems. We've got 10 players in the top 200. All of them are outfielders or pitchers, and they're primarily outfielders, so not a lot of help along the way in the infield or catcher positions, but feel like we could have a great outfield in a few years if things work out. Our top prospect is Jordan Contreras, number 17 prospect in baseball. We just picked him up as an IAFA signing earlier this year, and he hit .344 with 13 doubles, 7 triples, and 2 homers in 151 at-bats in rookie ball. He also stole 37 bases in just 42 games, so a 164 WRC plus 2.9 WAR. Still hoping that he becomes a Deshaun Seifu-esque offensive player for us, for those of you who watched our Buffalo Wings series as an expansion team in OOTP 24. Second highest rated prospect in our organization is Kevin Roberts, who we picked 5th overall in 2026, number 24 prospect in baseball. He really had a breakout year this year in his second year in professional ball. Hit .307 in rookie ball, and then when the Arizona Complex League season ended, we promoted him up to A-ball as a teenager, and he hit .333 in 177 at-bats, combined for 18 homers and 23 doubles at the 2 levels, driving in 80 runs. OPS is over 1,000 at both levels, and a combined 4.1 WAR on the season. Still think he could be a really interesting player for us with plus gap power, plus eye, and borderline excellent home run power to go with good speed and potentially good defense. So nice to see Roberts developing well. Trent Clausen, who we picked 24th overall a year ago, listed as the number 50 prospect in baseball, and he did get up to AAA right at the end of the season, but can't say it was an incredible production year for him. Hit .257 in 249 at-bats in high A-ball, but did put up a 111 WRC+, so we promoted him up to the Eastern League AA Hartford. He only hit .233 there, but did have 12 home runs and 30 ribbies in 172 at-bats, so still was an above-average offensive player. So on September 1st, we promoted him up to Albuquerque, went just 3 for 15 with 6 strikeouts in AAA Albuquerque, and then unfortunately he suffered a concussion that kept him out the rest of the season, and so a pretty small sample size there in AAA for him. Definitely the profile for him is totally based on the gap power and speed. Looks like the contact, the home run power, and the eye are all trending towards average levels, and he looks like a pretty average-ish major league player, but still holding out hope that he could become a useful left fielder for us, particularly if he's able to improve the range a bit and really maximize that gap power with the good speed that he has. Highest rated pitching prospect in our organization is Isaiah Shater, number 64 prospect, 6th round pick from our first draft in 2025. Split the year between high A ball, where he was 3-1 with a 2.96 ERA, and then we promoted him to Double A, where he was 7-3 with an ERA of just over 4, combined 3.6 WAR on the season. Still trending as a useful major league arm. Got to get that changeup figured out to give him a third pitch if he's going to really become a starter for us. And his low work ethic probably does not help us with his development, but only 22 years old, so still optimistic about him. Another outfielder, Francisco Santos, the number 70 prospect in baseball. He was our first IAFA signing back in 2026. Spent the year in rookie ball where he hit a blistering .369 with 42 ribbies and just 206 at-bats. OPS of over 1,000, 2.2 WAR. He'll be turning 20 early next year. Would expect that he makes it to A-ball and possibly even high A over the course of next season. Ryan Stone was our first round pick this past year out of UVA, number 73 prospect in baseball. He was playing in the draft league for a good part of the summer, but we did, when we get him back, put him into A-ball, where he hit 311 in 106 at-bats, 10 doubles, 2 triples, 6 homers, OPS over 1,000, and a 176 WRC plus. Really good personality for Ryan Stone. Still think he could be a pretty interesting major league hitter for us, particularly in cores, and optimistic that he'll continue to develop. Our final top 100 prospect is another recent draftee, James Embry, who we took in the second round this year out of St. Peter's, number 97 prospect in baseball. He also spent a lot of time in the draft league this summer, led the league with 13 games started and an 8-0 record with a ridiculous 1.30 ERA. In 6 starts in A-ball when he came over, 2-2 record with a 6.18 earned run average, so certainly not as effective once he was officially a professional. His FIP minus of 90, still in positive territory, and he was above replacement level despite the ugly earned run average that we put up, or that he put up. We also have 3 other guys ranked in the top 200 prospects in baseball. Right fielder Ted Miller, second round pick in 2027, hit 319, 7 doubles, 4 triples, and 3 homers in 138 at-bats in rookie ball. He is another guy who's really a natural outfielder, but we, also been playing him a little bit at first base. Going to be more of a DH type if he's able to fully develop that bat. Do like the durability that Mr. Miller brings. Doug Bartholo, a 5th round pick in that same draft in 2027, made his professional debut this year, and he hit a ridiculous 442 in 77 at-bats in rookie ball. Unfortunately, tore his hammy right at the end of May, missed all of June and into the beginning of July. So he did get back at the end of the ACL season. Hopefully next year, as a 19-year-old with some experience, he'll do really well in rookie ball and be ready for a promotion to A-ball. And then our final top 200 prospect is Cole Klecker, an 11th round pick from 2025, 13-2 with a 3.21 ERA and AA for us. Promoted him to AAA towards the end of the year, where he went 2-1 with a 4.66 ERA. Looks like more a back of the rotation type of guy, but does have ground ball tendencies, does have decent stamina. Think he could be a useful 4th or 5th starter for us if he comes close to reaching his full potential. And in the development lab this year, we are going to use our 8 slots largely on more difficult quality of contact programs. 6 players are going to be working on quality of contact. The 2 exceptions are Marcelo Meyer, who's going to be working on bat speed, and Kevin Roberts Jr., the young outfielder, who's going to work on plate discipline. But Caleb Lomavita, the catcher I mentioned, or the other catcher I mentioned, who we picked up in a trade with last offseason, was respectable in AA for us this year and at least held his own in AAA, with the fact that he's got similar defensive skills to Bernal, although he is not as accomplished offensively, and he's actually a little older. Not necessarily an optimal guy to have if Wells or Romo ends up getting hurt, but he is a guy who still has 2 option years left, which is why we were willing to move on from Bernal. And if we've got some injury issues, hopefully Lomavita will be able to play for us in the majors, particularly if he's able to improve his contact. Charlie Condon, kind of a last gasp at a guy who was once the top prospect in our organization, and you can see he's still listed by at least one source as the number 87 prospect in baseball. We'll see if we can improve his ability to make contact. And then 4 of the premier outfield prospects that we already talked about, Trent Clausen, Ryan Stone, Jordan Contreras, and Pinky Santos, all going to be working on their contact as well this offseason. And we've simmed ahead a few days, starting to get some of our free agents, or more accurately, our arbitration eligible players signed. Brenton Doyle, slight increase in fan interest. Also going to be bringing Ryan Walker back as our closer. Slight increase in fan interest there as well. Doesn't look like anyone else the fans were particularly excited about, but you can see we've gotten a fair amount of the arbitration eligible players signed already. Actually, all of the arbitration eligible players that we made offers to signed. And fan interest has crept back to exactly where it was before we traded Bo Bichette. So can't say that we are in a great spot as far as the fan interest, but at least we haven't lost anything this offseason at this point. And before we start moving forward towards awards season, going to check in on some of our former players and some of the better prospects in baseball. Zach Veen, who we traded away a few years ago at this point, is an established major leaguer with the White Sox. Hit just .224 with 8 homers and 43 ribbies. Did steal 12 bases, but an 82 WRC plus, 0.6 WAR. Represents his most complete year as a major leaguer at this point, I guess, but certainly doesn't look like he's going to be a big-time player. Lucas Franco is a guy who we kind of liked when he was coming out of the draft, but really has not developed too much. 21-year-old only has made it as high as high A ball, and his potential certainly not what we thought it might be when we were looking at him years ago. Cruz Schoolcraft, another guy who hasn't really progressed very much, has had some injury issues. 4.50 ERA, is a 21-year-old in rookie ball this year, and batting-wise, hit just .215 with 7 homers and 172 at-bats. The fact that a former first-round pick has now spent 3 years in rookie ball without getting promoted, probably not a great sign for his future. Jonathan Para, center fielder, who was an IAFA signing in 2026, split this year between rookie ball and high A ball for the Reds organization, and actually played pretty well. Still looks like he could be a pretty interesting contact hitter with good speed and a solid defensive outfielder. CJ Sampson is a potential two-way player who was a draft pick back in 2026. This year split the year between rookie ball and A ball. Was a combined 4 and 3 on the mound, well above replacement level at both levels there, and hit .362 in rookie ball before he dipped to just a .214 average in A ball. Still did have 6 home runs and 117 at-bats, and was a slightly above average offensive player there. So Sampson still looks like he could be a interesting player down the line. Sean Gamble of the Yankees organization, first-round pick in 2025, guy that we had some success with in our OOTP 26 miniseries with the Los Angeles Angels. Made it all the way up to the Yankees this year, 343 at-bats, and he hit almost 300, 297 batting average with 24 doubles, 13 steals, 124 WRC plus. Looks like a pretty versatile utility player, good speed, good defensive versatility, a great personality, and a bat that doesn't seem like it's going to be embarrassing at the major league level. Left fielder Ryan Westcott was picked 27th in 2027. He made his professional debut in rookie ball this year and also had a little bit of action in A and high A ball for the Cardinals organization. Carlos Restrepo, an IAFA signing from 2027, hit just .222 in rookie ball this year. Definitely regressed offensively from his debut in the DSL in 2027. Certainly, Reindeer Bill still has a potential profile that indicates he could be a useful offensive player down the line. And last but not least, Jose Estran, 18-year-old IAFA signing this year. He's an infielder that some members of the Worldwide Scouting Department thought we should pursue. He did hit 345 in 177 at-bats in rookie ball in the DSL, 17 doubles, 9 triples, 3 homers. So very productive in the small sample size that he has, but I'm also pretty pleased with the production of our IAFA signing from this past season. Turning to some pitching prospects, we've already talked about Schoolcraft and Sampson. Chase Dollander, not a prospect, guy we traded away in the early stages of this playthrough to the White Sox. He was 3-0 with a 2.70 ERA in the majors this year, but a very small sample size of just 7 games, 6 2/3 innings pitched. Was not good in AAA, but as I said, he's actually been pretty respectable in limited action in Major League Baseball over the last couple of years, but don't view him as a big-time prospect, certainly not at 27 years old. There are still 3 very big-time prospects in terms of their potential that we have looked at and thought seriously about and ultimately went in different directions on. Oscar Perez, the number 13 prospect in baseball, an IAFA signing from almost 3 years ago now with the Seattle Mariners organization. Made it up to A-ball this year, where he had a 5.79 ERA in 1 start. Also pitched at multiple rookie-level teams for the Mariners, where he was much more productive. Still having major control issues with 40 walks this season in just 54 2/3 innings. But if he's able to harness his control, certainly still looks like he could be a pretty interesting major league pitcher. Mario Garza, IAFA signing from this past period, number 78 prospect in baseball. The question with him is whether he'll be able to develop a third pitch, but he put up a 0.59 ERA in 15 1/3 innings of work, striking out 33. So everything that was advertised as far as his explosive ability and a fastball that, even though he's only 17 years old and was 16 in rookie ball this year, is already major league quality. And last but not least, Sergio Alvarado, an IAFA signing from 2027 for the Pirates, went 6-1 with a 1.60 ERA, 115 strikeouts in 78 2/3 innings. Our concern about him was the low work ethic and the control, but certainly off to a strong start in his professional career as well. And one last thing before I start moving forward through award season and towards arbitration and the start of free agency. I mentioned that there was essentially no market for Pablo Lopez, who's set to make $20 million each of the next couple years. See if anything has changed since I checked in a few days ago, and you can see nobody's offering a single player in return for him. If we bump our retention up to 50%, I guess we'll have to wait till tomorrow to check out, since I've been offline investigating some other players. Even with a retention of 50%, which would put us on the books for $10 million next year, you can see we can basically just get some relatively useless players or a big, relatively long, bad contract in return. It may be something that we'll have to do and have to investigate more fulsomely in a few weeks if it turns out that Mr. May does opt into that qualifying offer that we're making to him. That's certainly going to throw a big wrench in our already limited financial flexibility for this upcoming off season, and might require us to do something a little more desperate and expensive with Mr. Lopez, but we will cross that bridge if and when we come to it. And we made it to the start of awards season. For the second straight year, we have a single Gold Glove winner, and for the second straight year, it's the outstanding catcher Drew Romo, now a back-to-back National League Gold Glove winner at catcher. He also was named an All-Star for the first time this season. Was basically a league average offensive player and put up a 4.1 WAR, given his average hitting and his outstanding defense. Also a really good influence in the clubhouse. We anticipate that he will be our starting catcher for hopefully the better part of the next decade. And our Rockies with 2 Silver Sluggers this year. Even if you haven't been following too closely, you can probably guess who they were. Shortstop Ezequiel Tovar, the first Silver Slugger award of his career, led the league with 8 triples and also added 41 doubles and 27 homers, despite playing just 124 games and having 492 at-bats. Hit .295, 132 WRC plus, just a really strong offensive season for Tovar, who's settled in as a 5.5 to 6 WAR player for us over the past few years. Really good hitter who is also excellent defensively. Now has a Silver Slugger to go with his Gold Glove Award from 2024. And our Rookie of the Year / MVP candidate, Gus Nieves. All he did when he came to the U.S. Major League Baseball from Cuba this year was lead the league in hits, homers, ribbies, slugging percentage, OPS, and WRC+. To win a Silver Slugger, he was obviously also an All-Star. I think he is likely to be a unanimous Rookie of the Year, and we'll see what type of attention he ends up getting in the MVP voting. And in very unsurprising news, Gus Nieves was your unanimous National League Rookie of the Year. And we've simmed ahead a couple more days to the big awards in both leagues. Over in the American League, your Cy Young Award winner, your unanimous Cy Young Award winner, the 25-year-old Noah Schultz with the Chicago White Sox, led the American League with 19 wins, 19-6 record, a league best 2.15 ERA, 215 innings pitched. Also led the league with a 2.30 ERA, struck out 246 batters, only allowed a 222 BABIP and a 0.84 WAR. 75% of his starts were quality starts, and he led the AL pitchers with a 5.3 WAR. Schultz, with those ground ball tendencies and an incredible ability to keep the ball in the park, would be a wonderful pitcher for us to have. He's also extremely popular, but clearly we are not going to be able to pry him away from the White Sox. Over in the National League, our soon-to-be free agent, or possibly a guy who will opt into the QO, Dustin May, finished 5th in the Cy Young Award voting. But your Cy Young Award winner is his former teammate, Mr. Yamamoto of the Dodgers, 14-8, with a league best 249 strikeouts and 7.1 WAR, while also posting a 2.35 earned run average for your World Series runners-ups. Over in the American League, a very close race between Lazaro Montez, Jackson Holliday, and Jason Dominguez. Noah Schultz also got 7 first-place votes, although he finished 5th in the voting. But Montez of the Mariners, the right fielder, led the American League with 129 ribbies, also hit .302 with 38 homers, put up a 6.2 WAR, and he is your American League most valuable player. And in the National League, our buddy Gus Nieves did everything we could have hoped after we signed him to that big deal as an international free agent. We've already talked about the Rookie of the Year. We've already talked about the All-Star. We've already talked about the Silver Slugger. And now he gets the National League Most Valuable Player as a rookie. No surprise, given a .300 batting average and a league best home run, ribby, slugging percentage, OPS total. So couldn't ask for a better rookie season from Mr. Nieves. And we've made it to the arbitration hearings. As I mentioned, we didn't have an offer to Austin Martin, who we picked up in a trade with the Mets. We couldn't find anything useful in the trade market for him, so we're just going to let him hit free agency. The big thing that we'll find out shortly is whether or not Dustin May accepts that 1-year qualifying offer from us. Talking about a contract extension, still says he's looking for 5 years at $20 million a pop. I think if he does hit free agency, he's likely going to be one of the younger starting pitchers available and one of the healthier starting pitchers available among some of the top guys out there. So if I had to bet, I think he's going to reject our QO. But as I said earlier, I think it's pretty close to a coin flip. Certainly would not bet a significant amount on that. And Dustin May did ultimately decline our offer. As I talked about, he's definitely better than Lopez at this point. Would rather be spending $20 million a year on him rather than Lopez. But just doesn't seem like there's a strong market for Lopez. So I think this worked out the best way possible for us. Hopefully Dustin May will go sign a big contract with somebody else and we'll ultimately get a compensatory pick in return. The other option, of course, is when we do get to free agency, we'll potentially revisit trading away Mr. Lopez. And if we're able to do that and Dustin May is still available, maybe we will end up getting the swap done between the two of them. And looking at the top pitchers, May is certainly among them. Mentioned that there were some aged pitchers out there as well. Chris Sale, Nick Martinez, and Jacob deGrom, all veterans who are older and more injury prone. But Logan Webb among some other younger starting pitchers who are available. Not a ton of position players. Logan O'Hoppe and Yordan Alvarez, probably the top two position players available. And between Emmanuel Clase, Felix Bautista, and Joan Duran, some pretty interesting relievers out there as well. International free agents. Last year, obviously, we hit the jackpot with Mr. Nieves. Would love it if one of those right-handed pitchers is a big-time prospect. Not that we're going to have a ton of money to spend, but we'll take a quick look and see if there's anyone particularly interesting who is an international free agent. Luis Santiago, 33-year-old outfielder out of Cuba. Looks like a pretty good contact hitter, but not great defensively and doesn't bring a ton else to the table. Does have a captain personality, not looking for a ton of money, but probably not someone we'll actively pursue. Rico Espinoza, 33-year-old, also out of Cuba. Doesn't look like a big-time prospect. Not really too much in terms of the international free agents this year, which is good because we don't really have too much money to spend. We did end up, signing those arbitration guys for a bit less than they were projected. We also waived and DFA'd 4 players off of our roster and have made the big trade of Bo Bichette that we talked about. So as we sit here, we're going to be heading into free agency with a little less than $15 million to spend. But as I talked about earlier, we also have cut our scouting and development budgets way back from a year ago. So we're still in a situation where we'd love to find a little bit additional financial flexibility. Lopez is certainly the most logical path to do that with his $20 million salary. I'm assuming there is still going to be little or no interest in him, but we'll give it a check right now. I can't imagine that has changed much with a lot of free agents on the market. Still essentially, or actually no interest at all if we try to get rid of his entire contract. Take a look at the overall matrix of the free agents. Talked about O'Hoppe and Alvarez, J.J. Bleday, Byron Buxton. A lot of these guys were on the trade block just a few months ago. Don't necessarily know that there's going to be any huge impact players for us in this bunch, but we'll spend some more time with this list offline and see if perhaps there's somebody who can help us a bit. I think the pitching crop is a bit richer, but again, I don't think it's anything that we can realistically focus on. Taking a look at the relievers, if I could look at all relievers, that would be more useful. We talked about Duran, Clase, Bautista, Jeff Hoffman are your top relievers out there. Obviously, they could all help us, but you've got relievers like Felix Bautista, 33 years old, selfish personality, fragile physically, and he's looking for about $35 million a year with very borderline stamina if you wanted to try to use him as a starter. So the prices are pretty crazy. Edwin Diaz around $6 million, maybe someone to think about. Keegan Aiken also. There's certainly guys we could use to supplement our bullpen, but the money is going to be a bit limited. Taking a look at the starters who are available, Logan Webb, who's very popular, and Jacob deGrom, who's extremely popular. Both guys who could help us on the field and also with the fans. Martinez is recovering from a torn UCL and still looking for $23 million a year. Sale is 39 years old, wrecked and selfish. Shane Baz, he could be an interesting one to go after. Don't love the fly ball tendencies, but at 29 years old, he's one of the younger starting pitching prospects who's out there right now. Castillo and Dylan Cease looking for decent money as well. May, the number for him is up to $24 million, so reunion with him, I would say, is pretty unlikely, even though with those extreme ground ball tendencies, he would fit us reasonably well. Jose Soriano, formerly of the Angels, although I guess he was with St. Louis last year, another guy with those extreme ground ball tendencies. So there's pitchers for us to look at. We'll certainly also explore the trade market, although I don't think there's going to be a ton to do there. Don't think it's going to be anywhere near as interesting an off-season for us in terms of free agency as it was last year when we added Lopez, which, as we talked about, we regret a little bit right now. But we also added Gus Nieves, who joins Fred Lynn and Ichiro as Rookie of the Year and MVP award winners in the same season. So if you've got any thoughts on what you might pursue in free agency, would love to hear them. As I said, we're somewhat financially constrained with only $15 million. And as I mentioned, our investments in scouting and player development are way below where I'd like them to be. So I think I will explore options offline if there's any reasonable path to get out of Lopez contract. But again, if we're going to have to be spending and retaining $10 million a year for the next couple of years, I think Lopez at $10 million is probably a reasonable or good contract. Hopefully he'll do better in his second year in Colorado than he did this past season. If we can get most of the contract off the books, certainly something for us to investigate. But if we can't get that contract off the books, think that we're going to not be playing at the top end of free agency, and we may just end up searching for guys that are extremely popular and try to maybe bring some bargain guys on board who fit that for us. It stinks to have to kind of play the game a little bit in terms of trying to bump up our fan interest, but given that we've definitely been struggling with it thus far, might be something that we ultimately have to do. And with that, we will call it an episode. Until the next time, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.